a lot of the entrepreneurs out there are looking for the big whale idea. And, a lot of the biggest lessons, like whether you do an MBA or whether you start a small business. I mean, I don't think an MBA could have taught me what this did. And what we didn't expect was, sort of all 4,000 people on the call would do it right then. And we were brand new.
How many cell phones did you buy?
We can start a cell phone. Anyone looking for cell phones, just let me know. Yeah. So I think
for a sales pitch without the credibility, no references, how did you get them to trust you enough to, have those examinations? You were the overall winner, You were the overall winner of the Saica Top 35 Under 35 2021. How was that experience? Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Precious Molepo. Whether you are watching this on YouTube or you're tuned in via Spotify, I hope by the end of this episode, you'll be inspired, you'll be educated, or even better, both. Yes, you heard correctly. My interviews are available on Spotify now for you to listen to on the move, whether you're driving, exercising, cooking. Check out By Profession with Presh on Spotify. In studio today, I'm joined by the CEO and co-founder of the Invigilator app, Nicholas Riemer. Can I call you Nick for short?
Yeah, sure. Nick for short works. Yeah.
Hi, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for making the time.
No problem at all. No, it's good to be here. Good to chat with you. Yeah.
And I heard that at least one of the co-founders was a chartered accountant. I was so excited. I thought I need to hunt them down, get them in studio for this conversation. So I'm very excited to pick your brain and hear what it takes to run a successful tech company in South Africa.
Perfect. No, I'm looking forward to sharing.
Yeah, I just want to start off by saying thank you for such a meaningful application. It's great. It's a great thing to start a business. It's an even better thing to start a business with such an impact. And I feel like the Invigilator app has really contributed to making education accessible in South Africa.
Yeah, I think it has. Thank you so much. And I think, when we first started, it was interesting. I think when we launched, we almost looked as the policeman or the watchdog of exams initially. And that's changed. So that narrative has changed. And I think
you didn't like that narrative?
No, I didn't like, that wasn't solely what we were out to do. Really, I think at the time, everyone looked at us as, like we were making sure everyone was behaving. But really, we were there to make sure exams could continue. And I think that wasn't necessarily seen straight away.
Yeah.
But I think post that now, since the dust has settled and everyone's realized actually, with technology, we can actually study more, study where we want to, write where we want to. Pricing of education's coming down.
Yes.
Whether you're based in the middle of Africa, want to study in South Africa, or you're in South Africa, want to study at universities abroad, you don't necessarily have to move there.
That's amazing.
That's what tech can do. So I think that's it's great to see, and it's always lovely to talk with past users of the app, which I know you are. Being a CA, you would have had experience in using the app, and it's always wonderful to hear the stories, especially in terms of which year it was, because I think every year, we added to it, changed it, and the early years I kind of get, it wasn't the best back then by any means. And then you get.
I can't wait to hear about the transition from what it looked like when you started out to where it is right now.
100%.
And how that idea changed. Yeah. But before we get there, who's the man behind the Invigilator app? Tell us about yourself.
Cool, yeah. So I think proud chartered accountant, as you know. Born in Joburg, went to school in Joburg. I initially didn't study chartered accounting. I actually went down to Stellenbosch. Yeah, so I went down to Stellenbosch.
Tell us about that path you took.
Played a bit of cricket. Sort of really enjoyed my sport when I was younger. And I think at the time, Stellenbosch and going to play cricket for Marties was kind of the plan for me, and go and play some other sport. I also like my golf, so I could go and play some golf down there as well. Yeah. And I decided to do sort of finance degree first, funny enough, and it was really sort of in the back of my head. My dad was a CA, and in terms of my orientation weeks, it was around you're going to be playing a lot of cricket. So, you're not going to be able to attend all of your lectures, be fully focused on studying, and, maybe look at something that, you can do first in combination with sports, and then you can sort of specialize later. And that's kind of exactly what I did. So I did the BCom finance, really enjoyed it, loved finance, as you know.
And this was at Stellenbosch?
This was at Stellenbosch. Played lots of cricket, so I got the cricket out of my system. You know, really enjoyed it. It was a really good time. And I think then when I needed to focus, coming back to Joburg, did my conversion year through UNISA, funny enough, while working at the Hollard Insurance Company. So came back.
So it's only a year to convert from finance to accounting
so I think
degree?
once you had a sort of an undergrad in some sort of accounting, finance related degree, with the right sort of NQF levels, those types of things, you could then apply to do that conversion year. And I think you know, I'd got in as a, you know, sort of had a job when I moved back from Stellenbosch. You know, I know how to, you know, parents had sort of washed their hands of me, and you were kind of off, you know, and I saw very quickly, I managed to work my way up into one of the mergers and acquisitions team, and it was a small little team of just 3 of us. And all these companies that, you know, the big insurance companies were investing in, and the brokerages and some of the other interesting businesses, you know, a lot of the CEOs were chartered accountants. And the guys that I was working with in the M&A team were chartered accountants. And, you know, it was just, you know, this is obviously something you have to have, right, in order to build a good business and build a good, solid financial foundation. And that was kind of where I made the decision. This is what I really want to do. And I think that's important, because I think I've had a lot of conversations over the years where, you know, how do you, you know, taking that responsibility late nights, early mornings, doing the conversion year while working, then doing CTA. It's a long road, you know, it's still 4 or 5 years from there. In making that decision, you got to do conversion year, you got to do CTA, you got to do 3 years of articles with the board exam. So it's not like it's a quick thing. Yeah. But I wanted it. I just had a feeling in terms of what this qualification could do for me professionally. Yeah. I saw visioned myself running businesses one day, and that was enough for me to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and get some studying in. You know, to really sort of like, and then go to work and then come back and do your, you know. And
how was that, working full time and studying?
I must say it was obviously not easy. I wouldn't go back to it now and think, you know, I'd love to do that again. It was certainly, you know, it was certainly tough. But I tell you what, it gave you a good practical element, you know. So the subjects, you know, you can imagine working in an M&A division, you know, valuations you're dealing with on a daily basis, capital budgeting, forecasting. So when that starts to come up in the CA syllabus, you know, you've kind of got a leg up, right? Exactly. Same with auditing. You know, I think a lot of guys struggle. And if you look at the CA curriculum, a lot of students struggle with auditing. You know, I remember the substantive procedures and guys trying to memorize all of them.
Yeah,
and, you know,
because in practice, it's so different to the textbooks and the lectures. Yeah.
And I think in, you know, a couple of the audit cycles in Holland when I was there, you know, I had a big responsibility in the audit that was being done on the company, you know, and providing the auditors with what they want. And so again, you got to see, you know, what they were looking for. Yeah. So again, you know, in my studies, even though it was difficult because you know, didn't have all the time to be a full-time student, I was seeing elements of the practical side. And I think that's important for you know, students that are potentially struggling with their CA studies, is to try and think of it more practically, because I think you can get quite bogged down with, look at all the theory that I've got to try and memorize, and versus how's this actually going to work? Because you're never going to be able to just memorize absolutely everything in that curriculum. It's just too much, right? But when you start looking at, but how would I audit this if I just think about it practically, it starts making a lot more sense. Exactly. And it's why I must say I really enjoyed my CTA year, in that I was able to link a lot of the practical elements that I'd just been doing.
By your CTA year, you were a full-time student, right?
Yes, I was still working. I had to pay for myself. So I still had, but it was one of my own businesses. We were running a business called Pro-oats.
Pro-oats, tell us about that.
Yeah. So, you know, left Hollard post getting my conversion year done when CTA became a little bit more, you know, you needed to attend classes during the day. Obviously, you couldn't do that. But sort of during that whole, sort of CTA year just before it, I still needed, you know, I needed to pay for my rent and those types of things. And I had a business partner at the time. We came up with an idea. It was sort of around the time of Future Life, if you can remember that whole protein craze. Yeah. And we had an idea to combine whey protein with oats. Okay. Because what we found is that when we were studying or working, and, you know, all your mates were big, you know, those years everyone was into the gym and doing their thing, and you would sort of pack it yourself. You would buy your jungle oats and you would buy your whey protein, and you would mix it in a Tupperware, and then at some stage during the day you would pour boiling water and eat your protein oats. And it was just how how cool would it be if there was something that was already in a sachet that you could just throw into your kit bag? That would save so much time. You living by yourself, you've now got to wash that container. How nice would it be if you could just throw a sachet in the bag? And that was kind of a very simple idea. And I mean, it was something, again, where, I just really enjoy business. And I think even from a young age, with those things, it was just, even though studying, thinking about different ways that you could potentially make some money, create a small business.
I can relate to that. That was me. I was starting little things here and there as well. To be honest, the CA stream was like a backup plan.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank goodness I had the backup plan, because none of those businesses exist today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think that the nice thing is now is that I think that combination of the CA with that sort of passion for business, that's where it becomes so powerful. Because I think you look at anything in life, I always say it, if you want to go and become a professional golfer and go and play tomorrow, are you going to go and buy some cheap clubs from sort of a macro, or you're going to go to the pro shop and get the absolute best to compete with the best? Like that's what you're going to have to do, right?
Yeah.
It's not to say it's impossible. It's just to say you're more likely to succeed with the right equipment and the right training.
100%.
And that's kind of where the CA qualification
definitely.
is.
So you think there's like a competitive advantage?
Definitely. It's not to say you can't be an entrepreneur without it. Obviously not. I think, you look at some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, but I do think it gives you an advantage, I think.
But how so? Because maybe someone watching this might think, well, without knowledge that an accountant, all they do is books. So how would it give them a competitive advantage?
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you link it back to our business, I look at my brother, who's probably one of the best software engineers in the country. I look at the rest of our team that we've built up sort of over the few years, and I mean, you've got the best, some of the best tech minds, across South Africa for sure. Put them in a room, come up with an idea, not so good. Come up with a way to make money off that idea, not so good.
Yeah.
That's where we're good. We're good at being able to put together a team that's going to be able to sort of create the product that you envisage in the right way. And you're going to be able to take that and say, right, I'm going to make a business plan out of it. How am I going to take this idea, product, and commercialize it? Get it to market, work out the profitability on the product, work out how many products I need to sell to break even.
Yeah.
Work out how we're going to sustain ourselves from a cash flow point of view, budgeting, paying all my staff, PAYE, doing the tax returns.
Yeah.
Those are things that we sometimes just overlook, that everyone kind of knows these things, but it's not the case. And then when you get even more advanced in your business journey and you start bringing investors on, being able to value your business, being able to create the right pitch decks and forecasts and projections to get the investment in the right way to scale your product globally, that is our skill set. I can learn those skills for sure, but it's going to take you some time versus if you've got a passion for business and being an entrepreneur with small little things like you're mentioning, and then you have this golden ticket of being a CA with a foundation, not because it's just the letters behind your name, not at all. It's what you've learned over the 7-8 years of your studying. Then it becomes a hugely powerful combination, because you're able to take all of those different things, ideas, the team, and really make a successful business model out of it.
Yeah, I love that. You painted a great picture of how a CA has a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, yeah.
Back to Pro-oats. Where is that business now?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it was sort of a fantastic idea. It really was. And I think we were sort of the first ones to sort of play in that space, apart from like a Future Life that came a bit later. But I mean, we started so basically in terms of, we bought our oats. I can't remember where from. And we managed to get bulk protein from one of the suppliers that we were able to import it. And literally in the early years, we used to take scoops of it with a measurement, mix it in my dad's garage. We sort of kitted it out into a little assembly line, and we had a heat sealer for the sachets and the boxes that we'd pre-ordered and that type of thing, and we would make it up per order, and we eventually got to a point where some of the spas and the disc chems were ordering this product.
Oh, how did you sell it to them?
Yeah, so I mean, we eventually got more sophisticated.
Okay.
That was that, you know, in the early years it was kind of that, and then we were selling them ourselves, and maybe a few small supplement stores, those types of things. But it was a new idea. It wasn't like now where there's protein in everything.
Yeah.
It was a new concept. So I think there was a lot of interest early on, and I think we eventually managed to get it into a factory on a proper production line and do everything.
Because I was thinking, food industry is extremely strict.
No, so we eventually got it there. I mean, we started that way, like any business, and then you obviously had to have all your ISO certification and all of those types of things, and your barcodes, batch codes, product, all of that, and then you would have to deliver to the warehouses and that type of thing. So we got it. I mean, it put me through being able to pay all my rent and my studies and do my thing. So it really did what it needed to do as a business, and I think it taught me a lot. We also had an investor that came, so it gave me. It was a much smaller scale than what we're doing now, as you can imagine. But it kind of got me, you know, sort of exposure into that type of a, you know, idea, to creating a product, to selling the product, to bringing an investor on, and then ultimately selling the company. And I think for me, you know, I just sold my shares in the company because I was then moving into articles, and you know that.
I'm so impressed that you were okay with just selling and moving on to go, you know, further your studies, start with articles. Because someone could have seen it as like a golden ticket, like a lotto ticket.
I think it
to stop studying and to go full-time into entrepreneurship.
See, the thing is, I think for me is that I had already done a degree. I'd already gone and worked, and I'd seen the value in getting my CA, and I'd made that decision.
Yeah.
So I had already committed to that. I think that business was a fantastic idea at the time, and it would have required me to basically drop out of being a CA and do my articles, and then focus full time on that, because it's very difficult. You know, studying is one thing where you can still, but being at a firm and doing your articles, completely different story. So it was just for me, in order to complete the CA journey, that's what had to be done. And it also wasn't fair on the guys that I was working with on that business, right? Because I was a shareholder but hardly available because I was doing my articles. So it just made sense. And I think it was one of those things where, once it was sold, there were no regrets at all. I used the experience and everything that we got out of it. It was a fantastic experience. Wouldn't have changed anything. Like I said, the main thing for me out of that business was being able to pay and support myself, pay my rent, do my thing, not have to rely on anyone else. And I did that. And I think it also gave me some really good life lessons for later on in business now.
Definitely. And how did that selling process of your shareholding go?
So I think we had a couple of guys that were looking at it, potentially interested. As I mentioned, we did have an investor involved. And it was
so this investor, sorry to disturb, did they just approach you?
So it was actually through a supplement group. They owned a couple of supplement stores.
Okay.
In the early days, called 360 Nutrition, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a long time ago now. This is like more than 10 years ago. They owned this sort of group of salons, but they were involved in a whole bunch of other businesses. And I think they just really enjoyed what we were doing and wanted to partner and experience. So we got some money in. You can imagine for guys young, and we were able to ramp it up. And that's when we were able then to sort of take it to the next level, take it to a proper factory, a proper production cycle, get everything we needed to do in order to get it in. And I remember going to Dis-Chem the one day, and it was amazing to see your products. And I don't know, maybe people, they might be too young, your listeners, but I still have some guys that remember Pro-oats.
Big range.
Pro-oats back in the day. That was really nice to see it on the shelf. And there was another group that was sort of close with my business partner at the time. And he simply approached me to say, this is what they're looking to do. And it made sense. It was a very quick thing, because I knew it wasn't fair on them for me to continue to be a shareholder if I'm not going to be actively involved. And that's how I like to be. I want to be actively involved in the businesses that I'm involved in. So I think it got to the end where I now needed to do my articles, and that was kind of it. So a very sweet, simple exit. Certainly not an exit that meant I could ride off into the sunset and retire for. But like I said, a little business that put me through studying, and was able to to sort of do the small things like pay your rent, do your thing, without having to move back home and doing the rest of your CA and that type of thing. And then I moved on into articles, and that was it. I've never looked back. You know, it was a great, like I said, a great experience. Wouldn't change it for the world. It accomplished what I needed to do. Lots of fun. Retail is a very tough business, let me tell you that. I much prefer tech.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so much competition.
Lots of competition, you know, lots of capital invested in products. To expand, you really need to increase your factory sizes.
And that profit margin?
Yeah, small. You know, you think a lot of people don't realize, you know, how difficult it is to deal with the big retailers. You think, oh, if I can get into, you know, the big retailers, it's going to solve my problem. I want to just sell, and they make you sweat. You know, they'll only pay you after 90 days. Yeah, so you know, they essentially working your money. You know, you've been investing all your money into product on shelf, and they wait until they've sold it and then they pay you.
Yeah.
But you've got to invest it in all the different stores first. So eventually it catches up, and then you start making money. But it's definitely not. It's a complex business, retail, especially dealing with the bigger retailers. And again, I think really good. You know, a lot of the entrepreneurs are looking for the big whale idea, and you know, a lot of the biggest lessons, you know, like whether you do an MBA or whether you start a small business. I mean, I don't think an MBA could have taught me what this did over the, you know, sort of the 24 months of running that business, starting it from nothing, mixing it in the garage, now having to work out how do we do accounts, tax, you know. It really is the hardcore side on a much smaller scale, but it's all the same, right? You're just doing it on a bigger scale, but it's the same principles later on. So, you know, hugely... you know, or huge advocate for it, that, you know, it doesn't matter, doesn't have to be but, you know, you're not going to roll out of bed and come up with $1 billion idea in a week. They're all small to start off with. Yeah. And no matter how small, even if it's going to make you a fortune of money, even if it's not, there's lots of value to get out of that. And I think for me, it was fortunate that it was a successful venture. There were times that you're wondering, oof, you know, this is tough work when you lugging products all over the place yourself and dropping off boxes of oats, you know. But I think that the lessons you take from that process can be applied to anything you do in business. And I think that, you know, if you really want to understand business, start your own small business.
100%. Yeah. And your ex-partners, are they still there? Are they still running it?
I'm actually not sure, to be honest. Like I said, when I left, there were elements of the business that were hugely successful. We created a protein pasta that I was quite...
pasta, interesting.
So my ex-business partner's a cousin at the time, you know, owned a pasta factory. So we came up with this idea of trying to create whey protein with pasta.
So many ideas flying around in your world here.
we created this product called Pro Pasta that was, again, listed at this cam and did its thing.
Okay.
And, you know, it was quite exciting. But I must be honest, I haven't seen the products in retail in a long time. But there were some other contracts where the products were more sort of wholesale, you know, going to some of the cash and carries, or some of the, you know, sort of big corporate operations as a sachet business. There were also some of those angles. But yeah, no, I haven't. Like I said, it was my decision, I needed to have a clean break, walk away from the business and focus on the next chapter. And I haven't looked back. So I haven't kept up to date. It's kind of those things I think you'll see when you exit. It's like selling a share, right? You don't want to look at it the next day and see that it's gone up. Once you exit, you're out, right? You've made your decision.
That's the biggest fear.
Yeah, you know, now it's everywhere.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, some people can get bogged down, I suppose. But for me, I was 100% comfortable when I made that decision. That was no longer the right thing for me to do. I needed to focus on being the best CA that I could, get through my articles. I still, you know how it is. You've still got APC to worry about, all of those big things. And that's what I did.
Always put myself in that position. Like if I had a company that I ended up selling, I would constantly think, what if I'm selling the next Apple? You know? So I like that you know, were confident in your decision and you just let it go.
Clean break. And luckily it's been okay.
But let's talk Invigilator app. So for someone watching this at home that has no idea what the Invigilator app is, what exactly is it?
Right. So the Invigilator, so it was actually created during COVID. And really the idea around the Invigilator was that everyone was needing to write exams from home because of COVID-19. And a lot of the tech that was being used in South Africa and Africa to try and facilitate this just didn't work. You'll remember then there was lots of load shedding going around.
Yeah.
Not all students have fancy laptops, constant internet power, and this is what these big American and UK solutions required. So we had the idea to create something that was much simpler, that would be a lot more inclusive, and essentially create a tool that would allow for sort of monitoring of students, academic credibility, but on a much lower end device, on an entry-level smartphone, and in a way that doesn't require constant internet connection, and at a price point that made sense for the university. So that, in a nutshell, is what the Invigilator started out as when we had the idea, and we built a very simple application that allowed some of the bigger universities and some of the board courses to continue with their academic curriculum and exams during 2020. And since we had that idea in the we've evolved the Invigilator into really just an academic tool where if you need to monitor someone online, we've got a PC solution now, a web solution, obviously the mobile solution, which you would have made use of.
Yeah.
And then all kinds of tools built in for roll call, for in-venue invigilation, script submission, integrations with the learner management system. So again, I think what started out as quite a simple problem to solve, which was during COVID, make sure this is Precious, make sure she's not talking during her exam, has really evolved into the ability for all universities and schools across Africa to move to either online, blended learning, or utilize tech within your university, whether you're an in-venue university, in-person lecturing and assessing, and make use of technology to make it much more efficient, make it affordable, make it accessible. And that's what, in a nutshell, the Invigilator has allowed that to take place. And I think because of the way it's been built, for the first time, it's technology that's been built with Africa in mind. So there's no university that cannot be a client. We've got universities sort of all over the spectrum that are making, and schools. And I think that's been wonderful to see. And that 2020, I think we had 3 institutions that were making use of us, and we thought that was fantastic. As you can imagine, fantastic. We created an app, we had some users, it was really good. And you fast forward to now, there's about 1 million students, I think, in South Africa alone making use of the tech. And I think we've got about 70 institutions now.
Oh my gosh.
So it's great. It's wonderful to see how, again, just a small idea, an immediate solve to something, and then you evolve it. You find your niche. You find how you make yourself sort of sticky within the ecosystem. Relevant to the different institutions pre-post COVID. Because that was a big thing. We got in during COVID, but what was going to happen post when everyone could move back? How do you make the tech, evolve the tech to make yourself relevant still?
Yeah. At what point in 2020 did you launch?
So we started building in, I would say, April 2020.
Okay.
Where had to do some hard convincing to my brother. He was running a very successful tech company at the time.
Okay.
So you can imagine, now, developers hear this all the time. You've got the next big app idea. They, if they had a $2 for every time they heard that. Everyone's always got the best, the new, So my brother was very sort of involved in a fantastic tech company that he had started. So they were very busy in doing their thing, and obviously we had this crazy idea that we could potentially create something here that would be usable. But it took me a good 2 weeks. I give him a hard time about it now because it took me a good 2 weeks to convince him that this was something that we could potentially build. Many a family deliberation about it. My dad wanted to know what are we, why am I pulling my brother off, something that's currently working well and onto a project that we're not sure on. And I think eventually the opportunity was clear enough, I'd say. So I'd say April, sort of head down, let's create something and build something and get something to market. And I think throughout the process, I think there was, sort of information that we were working on something. Okay. And the institutions were looking for something that didn't necessarily exist. So there was a lot of interest sort of pre-completion.
Oh.
Which is interesting in a tech company, because I feel some of the bigger mistakes that these big tech companies or bigger tech ideas and products have is that they spend years building and perfecting. And by the time you've built, you're not quite sure now what to do with it. How do I sell this? How do I make money from it?
I'm a huge believer of jumping in and then kind of building it to the customer and what they want to see and what
100%. Yeah,
the
so that's
specifications are. Yeah, definitely.
and that's what we did. And I'd say September APT wanted to use it.
So September, so April and September. Okay.
Yeah, it's a quick build.
How did you get the interest before it was even launched?
So I think we were fortunate to have Theobald and Yuri involved
Okay.
from the University of Johannesburg.
These are the other co-founders.
Yeah, so they were involved, lots of academic background experience. So I think they were in the right academic circles to start sort of chatting about, look what we're working on type thing. So I think there was immediate interest within the academic network that, there is potentially something coming, right? Because if you meet with the US companies and they're not prepared to tweak their technology for a handful of South African institutions.
South Africa.
Whereas we were looking at it and saying, we need to build this specifically for this market. So I think there was already some excitement. There was no credibility yet, as you can imagine.
Yes.
So that's tough in academia because, there needs to be credibility first. We were kind of a fly-by-night,
Yeah.
coming up with this.
How did you, first sales pitch without the credibility, no references, how did you get them to trust you enough to, have those examinations with the Invigilator?
So I think, APT, I was fortunate. Obviously, you've been through the APT program. I've been through the APT program. Theobald and Yuri are very close with the APT program. So I do think that we had some friendliness there, right?
Okay.
Where it was, okay, let's see type thing, as opposed to they don't know you. So I think there was credibility there from APT because of the fact that we were, I'd been through the program, lectured on the program, and so had Theobald and Yuri, so there was already that. So they were the perfect guys to say, okay, well, let's see how it goes. But it was far from perfect. I'll never forget. I remember getting called to present the Invigilator app to the first APT contingent, and we created, the app and finished it about a week before the launch. It was kind of a rush because it was, how APT is, they've got a date, right? They're writing on whatever date in September, and that's it. We have to write. We're not going to change the date to suit your app, so you guys need to be ready. And there was nothing to sort of monitor the students that were going to write, so it was very important that we delivered it. And I remember that first meeting, we sort of, like a couple of days before the exam, I needed to present the Invigilator and, the fact that they're going to need to download this now before their exam. And we just kind of built the app and, we made the announcement. You guys need to be using the Invigilator app. This is how you download it from the App Store. This is how you register. And what we didn't expect was, sort of all 4,000 people on the call would do it right then. And we were brand new. So, your servers weren't ready for that.
Yeah, I want to ask, how did you test it before all of this?
You can only stress test things so much, right, before you hit in the live environment. So I think then that gave us a really good, strong, you haven't created a tech product until you've had a server crash, right?
Yeah.
Or one at scale. Because I think anyone that's built something that sort of hits scale, you're going to experience infrastructure server problems. It's just the nature of the beast, right? So that was a big wake up call. We can't expect that people are going to.
Was it able to handle 4,000 users at once?
Yeah, so straight on the night of obviously the meeting. Luckily, that wasn't the exam day, right? So what you end up happening is you sort of inundate the server with requests, and then students get frustrated because they're seeing it's taking time to sign in, so they hit again.
Yes.
So your 4,000 become 40,000 quite quickly, because you're hitting it 10 times.
Okay.
And that's what happened. So we had a lot of what we call signing in issues, where you just basically can't make a server connection because it's down. And don't worry, everyone, it'll all be okay on your exam day. And luckily it was. We picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off.
Yeah, that was a blessing in disguise. Hey?
And sort of did what we needed to do to get APT done. And I think that was sort of the first real test of the Invigilator app. And it was by no means perfect. There was a lot of sticky tape and chewing gum holding it up. And I'll never forget.
How has the app changed from when it was launched to what it looks like now?
So, I think, 2020, for those students that used it in 2020, compared to what it is now, it's almost a completely different application. So I think back then, we just had basically we called it a selfie, where students would take a selfie or two of themselves to make sure it is them. We ran a very simple facial recognition algorithm, and then ran a speech detection algorithm if you talked.
Okay.
And I think where we've evolved the application to now is that there's so many additional features, the architecture and scaling. Eunice is one of our big clients, 400,000 students writing.
Yeah,
so, I mean, we're
that's
talking
massive.
about 4,000 that did APT. You know, now you need to handle
100,000.
400,000 writing. You know? So we had some mornings, you know, where 80,000 students were writing at the same time, you know, on a morning.
I'm sure you didn't sleep the night before.
No, so we had, I mean, I'd say the first 3 years, we probably didn't have much sleep, a lot of stress, a lot of trips and family get-togethers cancelled, and a lot of just sitting in your office, pulling your hair out, trying to figure out the right way to make this all work. But I think that's kind of been the beauty of the team, is that, and that's kind of where we've sort of created trust with all of our clients, is that, you know, we by no means claim to be perfect. It's tech. On top of that, it's devices across Africa.
Yeah.
It's internet. It's complicated AI. So we by no means saying everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But if it's not perfect, we'll fix it. And that's kind of what we did. And I think we got the investment because, you know, we really care about our product and everyone using it, and the inclusive aspect. And that's what we develop on. So I think new features, you know, we've now got GPS monitoring, we've got script upload, we've got anti-plagiarism, converts the handwritten scripts to computer text to run anti-plagiarism across the board. We've got customized photos, integrations with the learner management systems to automate. We've evolved it into the PC solution that monitors in combination with AI to check it is you. But we don't monitor the whole time. We've got AI to trigger what it needs to see, not see. If you open up things you don't, you know, you're not supposed to have access to, we've created all of our own AI models to detect things on your computer that you shouldn't have open as a student. So basically just to create that credibility. But to do it in a way where none of that tech requires constant internet connection. And it means that you can just roll it out easily to all the institutions across. And I think
amazing.
the architecture in terms of being able to scale has been a massive change in terms of the amount of students that we deal with. And then the inclusive aspect, you know, that again has been a big focus. When you start in 2020, you don't know all the cell phones that students are using.
Yeah.
We know now.
Okay.
You know, we know all the laptops.
I watched an interview where
Yeah.
you were speaking on the testing of the Invigilator app and how you would, there's a new cell phone that's using it, or there's a new cell
let's
phone
go
that's
get
popped
it.
up. Let's go buy it. How many cell phones did you
Well,
buy?
we
to
can
test
start a
it?
cell phone. Anyone looking for cell phones, just let me know. Yeah. So I think, so it would be a combination in the early years and still today. I mean, there's a laptop we bought the other day. You know, you get some weird laptop that comes out, and you know, someone says they're experiencing this issue, and the best way to see it is either you get it from that student, but typically they need it for their work, or you find one and we buy them. So between laptops and cell phones, if we need to, we can open up a cash crusaders. Or so I think in the early years, what we would do is you know, you would sort of create tech with the idea of Android, Apple, you know, Huawei App Gallery, those types of things, and you would build it for the store, and you would comply with all the store metrics and requirements. But then you have Mobicel devices, not the newest ones that are like 8 years old that students are using, and Huawei's that are, you know, 800 Rand cell phones that you might not have encountered as a development team yet.
Yeah.
And there's just something small in your line of code that just doesn't work with that specific phone's operating system. So, you know, in the early years where 2020, 2021, obviously we had, you know, huge lows in terms of like those, the APT, but then huge highs in that we got together, fixed it, and they successfully wrote. And it was the same with UNISA, the same with all the other ones that jumped on board, the UJs, the Bostons in the early years, where you would have a hiccup here or there. Don't worry, we'll fix it the next day. Fixed, we were able to get it working. And I think a big thing in partnering with these institutions was making sure every single student could use the tech, because that was a big downfall of the international solutions, is that they were requiring you to use the latest MacBook. You needed to have, you know, a fixed fiber line running, those types of things. And I think as soon as an institution moves to a solution that you know, creates a disadvantage for some of its population, it's never going to work. And I think we were fortunate that meant something to us early on. And because of that, we used to pay students. You know, I would work on the help desk, so would some of the other founders, and we would sit there supporting students. And we would have, there was a phone, a Huawei Y5 Prime. It still gives me nightmares, because that was the phone in the early days that just gave us all kinds of problems. And it would be frustrating, because you would buy a Huawei Wi-Fi Prime off Takealot,
Okay.
and it would work. And it was the ones from 4 years ago that didn't work.
Ooh.
So how do you get that, right? So what we used to do is that we used to, on the support center, student has an issue. This is the phone. That's the phone I'm looking for. Where are you based? And if it was anywhere in a driving, we would drive
Distance.
2 or 3 hours, I would say, and get there. I would go. I had a number of trips I would do myself, drive out, pay the students a couple $100 for the phone, leave them
Imagine
my
their
driver's
shock when
license.
they
Yeah,
see the
leave them
founders
my
of the
driver's
Invigilator
license.
app.
Promise their parents I'm not stealing their phone,
At the door.
and then go back to the office, and we would then figure it out, and it would be something small that we would tweak and change, and the next thing it would work with that phone, and then the next day we would do the same thing, and the next day the same thing, and eventually you get to a position then where the majority of phones start working, and that's where we're at now, is that we're very confident in that, no matter what phone a student has, as long as it's got a camera and a microphone and it can access an app store, it runs the Invigilator. And then we started it all over again with our PC solution, because we went laptop, and then you have exactly the same thing, if not worse, because you can imagine all the different laptops in the world and their different
Very
configurations.
brave of you to go in that direction.
And then we had to do the same thing. So again, I did it as early as the beginning of this year. I was in my car again on the weekend, Sunday, you drive out to
But
wherever.
how many different laptops can you get?
Oh, so many. so many. Hey. I think if you look at Windows PCs, there are across the spectrum are just thousands of different types. Then you have the complexity in your Apple computers where they want you to buy new ones, so they don't make the older ones compatible with the latest apps. So you've got to deal with that complexity. And then you have the Chromebooks and the Linux PCs, and where it's the sort of the very affordable laptops that you might not have necessarily tested on or created a solution for yet. And then you launch to a school, you're all excited because and then half of them are using Google Chromebooks, and we've got a Microsoft app, we've got an Apple app, and then you need to pivot. And I think that's when, now we've kind of got our mainstream applications, and we've also evolved into the web solution now on the PC, where it doesn't matter what computer you have, you can run our solution. And again, that's been testament to the fact that inclusivity is so important to us, in that, first and foremost, it must work with everyone here in Africa.
Yeah.
Once it does that, where we're at a point now it's ready for the rest of the world. Whereas I think we had lots of, sort of tech companies, potential investors saying to us 2 years ago, why aren't you Oaks scaling? Why aren't you Oaks focusing on America, on the UK? You need to get your product everywhere. But for me, it was about, we were not perfect yet in terms of our inclusivity.
Yeah.
And inclusivity is not just important in Africa, it's important across the world. And there's so many students that can't use technology that let us solve this problem. Yes, the biggest tech companies might be solving the most advanced tech. They're monitoring your eyeballs, they're monitoring your typing frequency, like hugely advanced. But how do you roll this successfully out into a rural community where everyone can study what they want to study in an affordable way? And that's what we've done, and now we're in a position to scale because we've got all the right solutions. And that's what I'm focusing on now, is more and more expansion into different countries with the Invigilator.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. The pacing, I'm sure it must have been tempting though, to go to not fix the problems at home first and go into the international space. But what did the building with your business partners look like? What did the brainstorming look like? Were you guys always on the same page?
So I think, a lot of people ask, working with your brother, is it difficult, easy? You guys fight. We've got such different skill sets. I love tech. I've got a good understanding of tech. Made it, very important to understand what we're doing, what we're capable of, what we can add. Yeah. Not necessarily sitting down and writing the code. That's where they come in. And my brother is just exceptionally good at being able to sort of translate what we needed to do and sitting down and writing the code to make that happen in the right way, without bugs, without problems, without disadvantaging a certain segment of the population. Just being able to take that vision. So I think the beauty is that you've got my skill set, which is more the business side, good understanding of tech, but more, the CA, understanding sort of how we need to make money, how we're going to grow, how we're going to bring on new members of staff, how we're going to expand the product into new territories. if we need to bring on an investor, all of that my brother would be terrible at. Whereas, for him, he's got everything we need from tech knowledge to be able to create a fantastic tech team underneath him, and then bring to light sort of all the crazy ideas that we have. And then in combination with Dewald and Yuri, also completely different skill sets. Yuri was involved, in a lot of the tech rollouts within the University of Johannesburg, in combination with Saica and the different board courses. So his knowledge of tech was really good, and more importantly, what was working and not working from a lecturer point of view, from a student point of view.
Yeah, that insight.
Huge insight. And then Dewald comes, just years of experience within academia to understand, academically, what needs to happen now if you are caught cheating? What do we do disciplinary-wise?
Yeah.
How does the process need to work? Things that you don't necessarily think about straight away, but are extremely important. How do you review this data in an easy way? Because if you give lecturers, hours and hours of work to do now to watch videos, and they're not going to be. So how do you create the right filters academically that, from a disciplinary, credibility point of view, it's all going to make sense? How do you present the right reports to an academic sort of what's the right word here? To give you your actual tick in the fact that you can actually run the curriculum. Sort of your
Academic credibility.
Academic credibility, but the different accreditation bodies.
Accreditation, okay.
So when you are going to have your accreditation body reviews to say, okay, great, Mr. University, how are you maintaining academic credibility if you want to use our accreditation? Qualify as a CA, qualify as a CPA, qualify as a, anything else in a profession, and how are we going to have to make that data look so that we can get those ticks? That's where that beauty comes together. So I think the four of us have just had this fantastic combination where, there've been no fights. Obviously, they've been, it's not to say everything's absolutely perfect, but we have got a fantastic combination between the four of us where we haven't ever needed to fight. Everyone is respectful of each other. Everyone knows the skill set. No one's fighting over the same role within the business. But we all know exactly what our purpose is for the Invigilator, and how important it is that the four of us continue in the same way, because that's the magic formula. You break that up, and it's like breaking up a band, right?
Yeah.
If people get big-headed and think they're going to run off and go on a solo career now, and you never hear of them again. So we're very cognizant of the fact that what we have is something beautiful in the four of us together.
It definitely is.
Yeah, and really what we can still do globally is yet to come. And I think that's where the big sort of competition in the market is mainly tech companies.
Yeah.
Whereas our combination is the right tech, the right academic, and the right business combination to make it even more powerful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we've been successful. Yeah.
And what are the biggest challenges you faced other than testing
scaling?
Scaling.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us more.
So I think, for scaling, I mean, to give it context, we probably had 50,000 students, I'd say 2020. Complicated enough to think, an app, needs to have that many people using your technology, and it's not easy technology to use. We're not talking about popping on and sending someone a message. We're talking about writing an exam, capturing images, capturing scripts, capturing AI, uploading, processing, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Now ramp that up like we did so quickly. We went from let's say 40,000 students in 2020 to 500,000 students, a year later, 2022.
It's insane.
And really what it meant is creating the right infrastructure to handle the scale, that no matter how many students were writing your exams today, we wouldn't have to worry about anything being slow, anything not working, signing in, those types of things.
And at this point, it's not only your brother, right? You've hired other...
So there's about, I'd say about 50 people now within the Invigilator. Yeah, so so it's definitely, when it started off, it was just the four of us.
Okay.
But now, I'd say there's about 50 people now within the company in terms of tech, in terms of academics, in terms of support agents, in terms of our sort of development team, and that it's a big development team. That's kind of where our main focus is. Well, we've probably got about 12 full-time developers now within the company.
Yeah.
Working on all kinds of different elements.
That's a lot.
But there's a lot going on. You know, there's you got the mobile now. You got the PC. You got the integration between PC and mobile. Some students want to handwrite but get monitored, integrated to technologies. You've got the integration team, the API team that has to work with integrating with the different learner management systems. You've got the DevOps teams that has to handle all your server infrastructure. You've got the AI team that has to, you know, so there's a lot.
Yeah.
But for us, it's been that capital investment has been needed to keep us relevant.
Yeah.
If today we were at the same product we were at 2020, we maybe would still have 3 clients. You know, because it might be, or maybe not even. We might have 1 or none. You know, whereas for us to be relevant, we kind of found an immediate problem within Africa that needed to be solved. We solved it, and it was about now moving this company globally. How do we compete on a like-for-like basis, but in a better way? And that was around bringing the right team in. Like how sophisticated can we be with AI that we don't need to record 3 hours of a student, but rather bring in the right code that we can still monitor continuously, throw out what we don't need to see, upload what you need to see, reduce your internet connectivity completely and the data you need. And in that way, be able to roll out a solution that does rival all the biggest US tech players, but does it in a way that uses a fraction of the data and any community college around the world can use. And that's really been sort of the big focus on my side in making sure we are relevant. And it's not easy conversation. I mean, I remember talking to my brother, said we need to go on PC. And he was like, Nick, do you know what PC entails? You know, mobile, we've just been able to get mobile right. You want to start from scratch on PC.
I mean, after hearing the stories about you traveling to get student cell phones.
And then we got to do it all over again.
I think the same,
But, I mean, we had 1 client that wanted to make use of our PC solution. And they contacted me to say, look, all of our students are typing. It doesn't make sense to have students on a laptop. The laptop's unmonitored and they're using their phone. And perfect. Makes complete sense. Our argument has always been we wanted to create a solution that doesn't need a laptop, but it's not necessary to say if you've got institutions that have a laptop, why can't we offer a product still to those? Because it opens up a much bigger market. And when I started researching and as a team started researching, you know, we saw that even students that had a laptop, fancy laptop, they were writing at home, there were still complexities in having this constant internet need, the price point these products were charging, the fact that you had to have 600 megs of data to upload your, you know, those things just made it very difficult to scale. That's why they were only really being used in tiny little pockets across the you know, not, you weren't ever hearing a story that an entire institution like a UNISA moved on to this tech. It would be like, you know, the guys writing their honors are going to use this. Okay. And that for me was, okay, we need to, you know, in terms of allowing us to stay relevant in other markets, we need to potentially move to this in the right way. We don't want to create the same product that just monitors you, because then we might as well, you know, we're going to be exactly the same. Yeah. Let's create tech that works again completely offline. Let's build it like an app. Yes. Let's incorporate all the same features as the mobile application, but enhance it with video monitoring, screen detection, but do it in a way that doesn't require data in the same level as the big ones. And we had 1 client at the end of last year. So we launched it at the end of last year, August last year, 2023. 1 client that jumped on. Again, it wasn't perfect. It was a bit messy, but we were there. We were fixing it in there. And they felt, you know, the clients then feel invested because we really care. You know, we want to make it work for you. They know that other solutions are also not perfect. So let's give these guys a go that are really keen to show up and fix it. And we were able to do that and really get it working well for them. And I think within the first 3 months of this year, we had about 30 clients jump onto the PC solution. And I think
that's amazing.
Going globally now, that's the product that's the big one, right? Yeah. Because it's the one that, for example, the US and the UK are so used to. Everyone's got a laptop there. Exactly. They don't necessarily have unlimited budget and internet connectivity. And this allows you then to have a combination between schools, universities. It's just an app. You roll it out.
And be able to compete in the international market.
That's it. So that's kind of made us a little bit more sort of relevant. It's a little bit more of a strategic conversation. And that's kind of my role within the business. And again, that speaks to what is this? Those are the types of things.
Definitely. So you made Saica top 35. You were the overall winner, correction. You were the overall winner of the Saica top 35 under 35 2021. How was that experience?
No, it was good, hey. It was really, really good, I must say. So, you know, for us as an academic product, huge to have Saica stand behind you and say, guys, this is
Big
great. You know,
time.
this is great. It opened up, you know, a whole bunch of new clients for us. It gave us a huge amount of exposure. It really was. I think everything that I sort of expected the competition to be, it was way more for me and for us. And it still is. I mean, you know, there's still lots of things that I do in partnership with Saica post that. I think Saica offer you so many different networking opportunities to promote your business through Saica. And I think that that's something that all the young chartered accountants really need to take advantage of. And if you're doing something as, you know, you're a difference maker, enter the competition, or someone must nominate you, you know, nominate all your friends. I think it's a fantastic competition, a fantastic platform. It also gives you a little bit of that element of pitching to a group of people, you know, 20 people. If it's your own business, you know, it gives you that kind of, you know, pitching to an investor, Dragon's Den type feel. So you really need to take a step back and look at your business, look at what you've built. And I felt at that time, you know, I was so in the trenches, as you can imagine. 2021 was a hardcore year. You know, that was kind of when we really ramped up in numbers. And we were every day sort of putting out fires, scalability, you know, inclusivity, finding phone. And then you stop for a bit because you've now got to present what you've built up until now. And you're like, wow, you know, we've done this. So you guys remember, we've actually grown 100% in the law. You know, these are things you don't
so you
typically.
get to reflect on how far you've come.
And then you get to share that experience with like-minded people. And I think that's important too. You know, it can be a very lonely world being an entrepreneur. You know, if you're taking on all of this responsibility on a day-to-day basis on your own. And I think, you know, those that have, you know, only worked in corporate, you know, it's sometimes difficult to, you know, to really engage with someone like that because they haven't been through, are you going to be able to pay all your people by the end of the month? You need this contract coming in. One of your clients hasn't paid you yet. You need to get the money in, otherwise you're not going to be able to pay your server. You know, those things that keep you up at night.
And at the same time, you don't want to be too pushy.
Exactly. You know, so all of these different things, you know, people are looking to invest in my business. Who's the right one? You know, do I need an investor? Do I not need an investor? How do I say no? You know, because it's lovely to be, you know, wined and dined initially. Everyone wants to be involved. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like a marriage, you know, and I think that's, again, you have to look at it very carefully. And I mean, we did that. We had a number of meetings. We held a lot of investors back until I felt it was time to bring someone in that could help us grow the business, as opposed to, you know, someone that just wanted to come in and stick some money in. You know, we didn't need it at the time. We needed people that we could lean on in this entrepreneurial world, open up a few doors. And for us, we were fortunate. We found the right guys, and they've been brilliant. And we really have built a fantastic business together. There are all kinds of different opportunities that stem from that. And I think those things are important. And I think having that network of people that have been through those experiences, you know, that's what Saica offers in this competition, is that you've got, you know, 35 brilliant individuals that are there for your year. You know, you get to meet all of them, engage with the judges who have been in that position as well. Whether you're just someone that's dominating the auditing world, dominating the banking world, dominating the entrepreneurial world, there's someone that's been there before that you can establish a relationship with, and you can share things that they're going to be able to resonate with you, as opposed to, you know, sharing it with someone that's worked in corporate, their whole life, and you're trying to explain to them why PAYE considerations this month and your budget for next year, or creating this pitch deck is being so difficult. You know, they're not going to be able to relate with you and give you proper sound advice. Whereas those types of networking events for me are valuable, and I think they're far more valuable because they are organic, they're generic, they're real. People have got nothing to gain out of it other than they just want to, you know, get to know you, learn from you, give you advice, you know, allow you to elevate yourself, versus, you know, everyone else out there trying to get you to join their mentoring thing, and you need to pay them a fortune of money and they're going to make you the best, you know. These are things, because of what you've studied, are there free of charge, and are there because people are not wanting anything from you. They're doing it purely because they want to give you advice and see you succeed. And that's a very valuable thing. And that's what that whole networking environment does give you at Saica.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Okay.
But in closing, I do want to ask, what advice do you have for any professionals out there that are looking into going into entrepreneurship full time?
Yeah, so I think I'd say the biggest thing that I would advocate is it doesn't have to be $1 billion idea to get you out of bed to say, right, I'm going to start this. It can be something small. And I always link it back to Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And he woke up one day and didn't decide to build Amazon in terms of what we know now. He decided to create something that sold books online.
Yeah.
And it evolved to Amazon. We woke up one day and decided that the current solutions out there during COVID were not working. And we've got an opportunity to build something very simple in a smartphone app that could take a photo of you and listen to you. And it would solve this problem right now from being able to monitor students during COVID. What was going to happen post-COVID? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Didn't have a crystal ball to say the whole world would move more online.
Yeah.
But it was an idea. And it got something going.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean I had to leave everything I was doing at the time and say, I'm all in now into the Invigilator. And I think that's what people think. You're in corporate, you must leave now, retire, and now we're going to start this idea from day one. And it's, it doesn't need to be like that. You can get your small idea going because you never know what's going to stem from it. And the beauty of starting something and getting that first ball going is that there's a lot of the time different sort of avenues that open up that you had no idea existed before you actually started it. In terms of what you envision that idea and business to be, will be completely different by the time you get to the end of the journey. But you'll be better off for it because it's going to evolve into all kind of aspects you didn't necessarily see. What are the students feeding back to you? Lecturers feeding back? It changed our whole product compared to what we thought. So something that's relatively simple, get it going. You don't have to create a white whale $1 billion in the first week of starting a business. It can be something simple. If you can make yourself an extra 1,000 Rand a month, wonderful. It's going to teach you, for me, far more than doing a fancy MBA or continuing to study. Do something that's going to bring a little bit of extra money in. It's a side hustle. And then as you're still working in your corporate position, start thinking about how you can make that 5,000 Rand, 10,000. Oh, wow, there's actually a bigger market. And then you can be, after 6 months, I got the foot in the door. We saw the opportunity. It was the right time for me to resign. And then focus on this idea full time because I saw exactly where this journey could take me. But I couldn't see that on day one. But I wouldn't have been able to get there unless I got the idea going. I think someone once said to me, the best ideas in the world all are in a cemetery because people die with some great ideas because they just never executed them.
Yeah, and that's the difference between a successful person and one that isn't, just the execution. Yeah. No special recipe, no special formula, just the fact that they're in the position to get it going.
To do it. I think the best entrepreneurs in the world that you look up to is someone that's failed but didn't give up. Because they would have failed at some business, they would have failed in the business, but the next day they woke up, they dusted themselves off, they rebuilt their servers, they changed infrastructure, and they kept it going. So just, for an entrepreneur that's in corporate, it's a small idea. Just get it going. You never know what it can be. And even if it's just lessons on what not to do in your next business, hugely valuable.
Yes, love that. Thank you so much, Nick, for making the time. I learned so much.
Okay, great.
I learned so much. Thank you. Where can people find you?
So I'm not a big social media guy.
Okay.
Focused on what we're doing. But on LinkedIn, I'm active.
Okay.
So, on LinkedIn, you can just look at Nicholas Riemer on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. So anyone wanting to send me a message, ask for some advice, I'm always very happy to. So more than happy to engage on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see where the Invigilator app goes next. I'll have my eyes glued on to any updates. Everyone watching at home, thank you so much for joining this episode. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify. Until my next episode. Thank you so much. Bye.